I think one of the coolest things when I started and I first joined the downtown office was that it just dawned on me one day. I was walking around, Jack wasn't here, and I had a question that I needed an answer for somebody pretty quick. And I just walked the office. There was the old office. It was like circular, and just walked the loop. And there was several agents who like were able to help me. And it just dawned on me. I was like, I knew getting my real estate license and getting into real estate, I was going into business for myself, but I never felt I went into business by myself.
Welcome to Tampa Bay Unlocked, the podcast where we dive into the dynamic world of real estate and business in the vibrant Tampa Bay area. Join us as we sit down with top agents and industry leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories of success. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, our interviews will unlock the secrets to thriving in one of Florida's hottest markets. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and motivated by the experts shaping the future of Tampa Bay. Tune in and let's unlock the wisdom from our next guest. I'm very honored to introduce DJ Soucy, a top agent here in St. Pete with over $20 million in production so far this year, and the year's not even over. He's become an expert in particular neighborhoods in the area, and I'm very honored to introduce him. DJ, welcome to the show. Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What a nice intro.
Hey,
Pressure's on now because in your intro you just said I have to inspire, so I'll do my best.
Yeah, you will. I already know you will. You bring the energy. But this is the first podcast I've done post storm. Mm-hmm. 2 storms. How are you? How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Holding up great. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell your energy is good, which is not, for anyone listening that's still going through it, just know you're not alone. A lot of people are still feeling it, lack of motivation, the norm. This is like the first probably full normal week, I feel like, for some. So glad to hear you're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't lie. There was, a day or so where it's difficult. We were talking before we started the podcast that at least me personally, I've never been through this before since I've been licensed. So there was definitely a day or two that, my motivation wasn't there, that I almost slipped back into a little bit of imposter syndrome because I'm contacted on a daily basis now at this point, 7 years in, as a professional and asking for my professional opinion on things. And, can I swear on this?
Sure.
Oh, cool. Because I'm not the type of person who's going to bullshit you.
Yeah.
If I don't know the answer, I'll go find the right person to give the right answer. But, being asked what to do in this situation or that, before we even knew what was really going on, it's difficult and it was a challenge and it just, it was tough. I didn't want to give the wrong advice or the wrong information or connect them with the wrong people. But as you said, everybody's in a different place. Everyone's affected differently, but it's okay wherever you're at, as long as, you work through it, move through it, and connect with the right people.
Yeah. Well, the coolest thing I'm noticing post-storm or even during days after is how well the community has come together. Mm-hmm. From an agent perspective, from the certain neighborhoods that were devastated. Watching that was really cool because I've never lived through anything like this either. People that have been here, we're talking about homes that never flooded 30, 40 years since living there, and they're taking this on the first time. So I think, that imposter syndrome, we're all navigating this new area together. And as long as everyone's understanding of that, we're doing the best we can with the information that we have, and we'll figure it out. But so glad you're doing well, and I'm glad we can get the show back on the road. This is something I've been looking forward to, just sitting down with you for a while. 7 years in the business now, I have a thriving business, thriving team. Let's go back. You moved here from, you grew up in Boston, right? Moved here from where?
Chicago. The last 8 years prior to here were Chicago.
Okay. So what brings you to St. Pete?
Well, basically, my husband and I have been together 23 years, and over those years we've been together. Between the two of us, we've lived in Boston, LA, DC, Chicago. As I said, the last 8 years we're in Chicago, and we were just really tired of having 65,000 people in a 2-block radius, but we didn't want to be in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I had left working for Citigroup and hadn't decided what I wanted to do yet. We had sold our house in Boston. My husband traveled for work, and we just weren't enjoying Chicago like we used to when we first moved there. We were getting older and just didn't take advantage of everything the city had to offer. Kind of already been there, done that, and, just time to downsize a little bit in terms of location. it's funny because my husband's the type of person who doesn't like change. I don't mind at all. I kind of like a new adventure. So I knew if I didn't push the envelope. So I told him, I said, I'm not giving you an ultimatum, but here's a notepad. Here's your notepad. Here's my notepad. We're taking 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, I want you to write down 4, 5, 6 mid-sized cities you think you want to live in. I'm going to do the same, and we're not talking about it until whatever the date was 2 weeks later. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, but when that date, when we sit down to discuss it, we're not getting up from the table until we agree on one. And then the next day,
You set all these parameters ahead of time.
we're setting the wheels in motion.
Okay.
Because if we don't, we're never going to go anywhere. And he just looked at me. He's like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because it's that definition of insanity of doing the same thing and expecting something different. We're not happy here. We're not enjoying it. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. I'm not working right now. I'm holding off on, looking for another job until I know what I want to do. And you travel. So as long as we're near a major airport, who cares? So anyways, he followed directions well. We both did it. And he wrote down St. Petersburg, which when I saw that, it was 11 a.m. I was like, have you already been drinking? I'm like, are you crazy? All I had for reference was St. Pete from like the 70s and 80s.
God's
the
waiting room.
The movie Cocoon, all that good stuff. So he was like, no, I haven't been drinking. For the record, he wasn't drinking. He just said he had spoken with a friend who had moved down here to run a hotel with his family, a friend of ours from Boston.
And so what is this? Is this like 2017? Okay.
Yeah. And I flew down, checked it out. We actually had, and this is not a dig towards Tampa, there's just a different vibe, but I'd set up showings. I'm not in real estate at this point. Set up showings in Tampa and St. Pete. I saw a couple places in St. Pete, plus I was staying in St. Pete while I was here for the week. Went over, saw a couple places in Tampa, and I was like, said we still had 3 more to see. I'm like, can we just skip these and go back to St. Pete? The vibe here was different, and it was more what I knew I was looking for. It felt like home. So yeah, ended up my last day before having to go back, found our house just by luck. And put in an offer, and here we are.
But there was something about that experience with buying that house that led to you getting into real estate, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of, all our real estate experiences prior to moving to Florida were like a Disney movie. Bambi came out, birds chirping, everybody agreed, no problems with inspection, just easy peasy. And then we bought our house here. It was not. And it was difficult because, we were back up I was in Chicago. My husband Damien was in Seattle at the time. So we're doing this all long distance. It was difficult. The appraisal came in, I think it was over 25% under the sales price. When I asked the agent, I was like, hey, did you happen to see the appraisal? And the response I got was, I know the seller, they're not going to negotiate, so do you want to come out of pocket?
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'd really rather try to understand the appraisal first, and why it didn't appraise. Can we talk about that? We were on a tight timeline, so we didn't want to nitpick over the inspections. The only thing we asked to be taken care of was they said there was a small leak in the pool pump. So we knew it would be a few weeks before we got down here, packed everything. We didn't know if it would get worse, so we asked for that to be taken care of. We were told it was taken care of. We came down here. It wasn't taken care of. When I reached out to the agent and just said, hey, could you give me the receipt of whoever fixed that? I'd like to call them because it's still leaking. The response I got via email was, transaction's over. We're not paying for anything, which I didn't ask anybody to pay for anything. I just asked for the receipt. It just left a very sour taste in my mouth. And the more I spoke about it with a couple of friends, one was in Massachusetts and one was in Texas, in Austin doing real estate, and I was bouncing stuff off of them, and they're like, you haven't figured out what you want to do yet? Like, why don't you get into real estate? Like, you can do that. You've run businesses before. You have that part going for you. But the difference is, it sounds like, we know you know how to take care of somebody. You care.
Well, you come from hospitality industry.
Yeah. Which I think is a great resource.
Absolutely. You know people. So,
you know people, but you also know how to multitask, stress management. Like you don't. I mean, most good servers and bartenders don't walk up like, "Oh my God, I'm so slammed. I'm not going to have time to like."
Right.
No, you know how to triage and prioritize and keep everybody happy at the same time.
yeah. So what was the exact moment for you? I'm always curious. Like I love these, and when big decisions are made, where you knew, okay, I'm going to go get my license.
It was after speaking with my friends about real estate. Yeah, it really just
So it just
with
felt
them
aligned.
pushing-
There was no friction.
No,
Okay. So you get your license. Now what? I mean, how many people do you know here at the time?
I knew nobody.
And I'd love to highlight that because for any new agents that are listening, they think like, hey, I'm in this new. I don't know anyone. I can't get into real estate.
I didn't know the business. I didn't know the area. I didn't know any. I wasn't connected with anybody. I I use, if you're familiar with the area, I used my GPS to get from historic Kenwood to the Publix on 34th by 34th and 22nd for like months. So
I
yeah,
get that.
I did not know the area at all.
Okay. So, but that didn't scare you.
No, no. I can, like I said, I know how to take care of people. I know how to, I know numbers. I know how to run a business. Everything else I can learn.
So you're now 7 years in, but if we go back to that first year, what was that first year like for you?
A blur. It was amazing though. I feel very fortunate. I actually started off at the KW St. Pete office. No pun intended. I hit the jackpot with my mentor. I was assigned Jack Smith, who was just amazing. So generous with his time, knowledge, just everything. Invited me to every appointment he had, let me sit in on every conversation, every meeting. But not just that, everyone in the office was truly generous with their time and their knowledge. And if you think about it, it's one of the coolest collaborations ever because it's the most competitive collaboration, right? Because we're all in the same marketplace, but we're still all collaborating. That's one thing that I love about this industry. Don't get me wrong. There's a few out there, you know who you are, who don't play well in the sandbox,
Yeah,
but
true.
there's a lot more good than there are bad.
Well, it's 80-20, right? If there's a bell curve, there's always going to be the outliers, but majority lie in that space because in this industry, you have to collaborate to get things done. Or it's not fun to go to war.
No, you're not going to get anywhere.
No. Okay, so that first year, what were you doing that first year? How many sales did you do or volume? Like where were you at?
So I joined and I started, it was right around Thanksgiving, so there's nothing going on. So we could say December 1. I had my first 3 closings done by the end of March. And I thought, look out, I'm on fire now. And then nothing happened until the end of October.
Whoa.
In terms of getting things under contract and closing them.
6 months.
But what I never stopped doing all the work that I was doing. So I'm not, and it's, no shade on the realtors or the people who are phone call oriented, making cold calls. I'm not that person. Like you said, I came from hospitality. I feel I present much better in person. I'm also able to read the other person's body language and whatnot. It's just my comfort zone. So knowing that, I had to figure out how I'm going to get to know the area, the market, and meet people. So for me, open houses were the key. So I was tricked by my coach, but into committing to more.
When did you hire a coach?
It was like from day one.
Okay.
And still 7 years later, he's still my coach. And I think I've missed 2 appointments in 7 years. It's just been invaluable for me. He's amazing. It's Michael Reedy, fantastic coach. But he said to me, like, look, at this point, you're going to have to do some kind of lead generation. If you don't want to make phone calls, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I can do open houses. I've already done one with Jack. I'm comfortable doing that. It's going to help me get inside the homes to learn the inventory in the market, and puts me in front of people who are actually, instead of making a cold call, these people are most probably a buyer, definitely sellers. I got listings from doing open houses, but I did 2 a week every week for a year. And it extended into a second year, but that was my first commitment, was for a year. And I learned very quickly after the first month, I stopped just asking like, hey, does anybody have an open house? Because I was like finding myself in Clearwater and Safety Harbor and other places that, nothing against those, I didn't care to build my business out there. So I had to get purposeful and intentional. And I knew that I wanted to really focus in on my neighborhood of historic Kenwood. So that's what I did. And it didn't matter if it was somebody in the offices, this office, if it was their listing, another brokerage. Like back then, it never ceased to amaze me how many agents were like, they'd have a new listing come on. And I'm like, hey, I'd give them a call. I noticed you didn't post an open house. Are you planning on doing one? If not, I'm happy to do it. I live right in the
I want to
neighborhood.
highlight that for a minute because I think that's a key strategy for those starting. One, I don't know how many interviews are at now in terms of agents, but I think like 15, 20 or something like that. And open houses is a continuous theme of people who've gotten great success in this business. But for you to say not only you sought out open houses in a specific area, you're the first person to say that, to identify, hey, it doesn't matter who has it. And even if they're not doing one, I'm going to reach out and offer. And people were receptive to that.
They were. Some after a while. There's one in particular, I love her to death. We're friends to this day. Not with this brokerage, and we weren't with the same brokerage. And she said, oh, I actually have a few listings in Kenwood coming up. You can do them all. I don't like doing them. I'm like, great, thanks. And then, I did one. A few months later, the next one. A few months later, the third one, she stopped in to see me. And when she did, buyers that I picked up from the open house I did for her a few months prior were there. And they're just like, oh, we're just so happy with our house. And we just wanted to say thanks. We saw you were doing this open house and blah, 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 blah. So lucky we met you at blah, 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 that house. Because that wasn't for us, but you found us the one that was. And she's just like, really? And she started figuring out. And that's literally how I built my business. But it's also not just focusing on one area. It's the repetitiveness of it. It's a way of illustrating or demonstrating to people how I work, right? So if it got to the point that I was doing so many open houses within the same area, and if I couldn't do them right in historic Kenwood, I did it right on the outskirts. And what that did was, and this is before, the crazy market,
2021,
2020, 21, 22, where homes were beyond the average back then when I first started. Average days on market for historic Kenwood were like 36 days. So you had opportunities to do open houses. And buyers had the time. They didn't have to rush into a decision, and they could look at multiple homes and take their time. But I was doing so many open houses in the area that buyers would come in and they'd be like, are you the only realtor who works in this neighborhood? I'm like, hey, the only one you need to know. What's your questions? Come on in. Let me show you this one. It got to the point that after that first year of doing it, I would be at Publix in the morning, because again, it's about consistency and the repetitiveness. Consistency is really the word. That my open houses were done the same way every single time. I have watermelon mimosas, bottled water, the same bottled water, the same mini muff, like the same setup. Because it's like,
you don't have to think now. You got your
not
system.
just that, but however you're gonna know you're at one of my open houses. And I literally would have people come in and say, like, oh, I've been to 4 open houses today. Nobody had anything. Nobody even said hi or this or that. And fresh flowers, like the whole setup. It got to the point by the end of that year and going into the next year, there were some mornings I'd be at Publix and people would be like, come up from behind me and like poke me and be like, hey, where's the open house today? Hey, like there was one time there was no muffins. I had cookies and they're like, you're not serving those, are you? Like,
They knew your brand. You were building a brand.
Brand recognition, exactly. And so I think that was one of the smartest things that I did.
Yeah. When do you feel like for you that the career really started to take off, when you feel like you had a handle on things? Because I know
I'm supposed to by now? No, I'm just kidding.
well, fair. I mean, that's a
kidding.
good thing. But I feel like there's that moment where you're like you're catching stride. Like you had a falsehood of stride there in that March in your first year, and then 6 months nothing. So when
it goes like this.
Yep.
When you first start, and then the peaks and valleys tend to even out a little bit as you go on. They really should. But I would say it was by the end of last quarter of 2019 when I really noticed it. And it's funny because, I farmed historic Kenwood, so it wasn't just open houses. It was, I did plenty of door knocking. Even if there wasn't an open house, I found other ways to door knock. I'm actually really excited because we're going to do the same thing, not this weekend, the weekend after, election weekend. The last election, we did election recovery kits. So we had little satchels made, and inside it just had random stuff like little travel packs of emergency that you mix with water, Advil, Pepto-Bismol, just other stuff,
That's so funny.
Band-Aid,
Yeah.
alcohol rub, and a custom tag that just said, hey, there's two candidates and only one can win. We keep hearing that if my candidate doesn't win, I'm going to move. We're here to help you. We're here to let you know we can help with that. And at the bottom, I put a couple asterisks and I said, this was intended to be humorous. If you can't laugh, don't call us.
That's, way to call it out.
Yeah, it's like lighten up everybody because it is heavy, right?
Right.
I don't even need to say it. Everybody knows what's going on and
Yeah.
how thick the tension is or the atmosphere is over it. So it's just
That's
like,
creative.
everybody lighten up.
That marketing aspect of it, I think those things you do to differentiate yourself amongst everyone else matters, right?
Yeah.
And so you were very specific in an area, and then got creative and sticking out, right? Because people they're not going to forget about those little things, your election emergency kit.
Yeah. Oh, it was
recovery
one of
kit,
the most well reacted to and responded to things. Like I had people taking pictures and like sharing it on social media, like, oh my God, that's so funny. Look at what we got, blah, blah, blah. And, again, it was more about, brand recognition.
Yeah.
We've done different drop-offs through the years, through the neighborhood, but I really, because it just started with me, farmed in the neighborhood. That's one other thing I just wanted to say. I think one of the coolest things when I started and I first joined the downtown office was that it just dawned on me one day. I was walking around, Jack wasn't here, and I had a question that I needed an answer for somebody pretty quick. And I just walked the office. There was the old office. It was like circular, and just walked the loop. And there was several agents who were able to help me. And it just dawned on me. I was like, I knew getting my real estate license and getting into real estate, I was going into business for myself, but I never felt I went into business by myself.
That's important.
That is so important. And I get asked, to coffee probably every other month or so, every couple of months by somebody who's just getting in, whether it's they specifically are asking are you hiring? Can I come on your team? Or just hey, can you tell me what it was like to start? Any suggestions? And I'm really happy to do because people did that for me. And that's one of the biggest things that I let people know because it's really not. I mean, especially when you have these reality shows, Selling Sunset or whatever the other ones are. I really don't watch them because they irritate me within 5 seconds.
Right, because it's not reality.
It's not reality at all. And it's just it's nothing like that. I mean, agents who would behave like that off camera, they wouldn't be getting deals done. So I hear that's not a prerequisite for some of the
I'm sure. The more drama, the better. That's what sells. That's what the attention grabber.
You want me to flip this over?
Yeah. No, that's not. We're not accepting that. Exactly. You had said something there that I wanted to touch on, but I forgot. So I'll go to another thought that I had.
Sure.
In terms of branding sticking out, I feel like we're an early adopter to social media and doing video and things like that.
Kicking and screaming. I didn't want to do it.
So where did that push come from? Was that a coach thing?
Yeah, Michael Reedy, my coach, pushed me for that. And it was real. I have to tell this story because it was really funny. My first real estate sign just had my name and my phone number, no picture. Because I'm just like the majority of people. I don't like my picture taken. I don't like how my voice sounds, all that stuff. I don't like seeing myself on video. And Michael kept pushing me, and he was like, and this is before COVID, and I'm glad I got the push before because it was super important then. But he pushed me. He's like, you know what? When you're going to you're always doing open houses. He's like, just turn on your phone on your camera on your phone and do a video there. Just walk through. So I was doing that, but not with the camera on me and just showing. He's like, you are your brand. Like you should be in it. So one day I'm standing in front. It was in Broadwater. The Broadwater neighborhood, and I'm trying to do a little intro in front of it. I'm like, hey, this is DJ. I'm outside of blah, blah, blah street. And I think it was 6 or 7 times something different happened. I think the first one, a bug flew in my mouth and my nose. I was just like, blah. The next time a guy went by on a Harley that was
it's
super
so
loud
bad.
and drowned me out. Then a low-flying plane.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
always
like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I kept tripping over my words. And I was like, this is like, I felt like I was being punked by myself or some my subconscious. So I was just like, whatever. And I was like, anybody want to see my bloopers from today? I think I did it on Facebook. And a couple of people were like, yeah, put it on. So I posted it, and it was the most reacted to and commented thing since I had ever been on social. And I wasn't really on social media until I got into real estate. Like I really didn't care for it. And that just taught me that, wow, like in my mind, I was thinking I needed to be perfect. Nobody cares. People want you to be authentic.
And real.
Or expect you to be authentic.
And it's almost better when things happen.
Well, that's my biggest mantra. And you can ask everybody on my team. I think sometimes, I mean, everybody goes through it probably in different phases of their life and different careers, but I think sometimes people get their license and they have this idea, the stereotype of what an agent should be or look like and all that stuff. And my biggest thing is if you aren't being yourself and being unique, your people will never find you, period. Right? There's somebody who joined my team who, I thought something was good. He was my first hire. I love him to death to this day. He seemed like he had an attitude. We were having our one-on-one, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, the story I'm telling myself is you hate working for me. And I was like, and you can't stand real estate. And I'm like, it's only been 6 months you've been doing this. You know what? Shame on me. I should have asked you. How do you like it? Are you enjoying it? What's going on? Like, tell me what's really going on. So I'm not telling myself the story. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me that. And he was like, no, I love working for you. And I'm like, cool. And he's like, in terms of real estate, yeah, there's some things I like and some things I don't. I'm like, well, cool. Let's talk about them. Let's see if I can help with them, whatever. And one of the things he said is he's like, obviously, I'm gay. And he's like, I'm more of an effeminate gay. And he goes, sometimes I feel like I have to present myself differently because I'm representing you. And I wouldn't want to ever screw up a deal or lose business for you. And it literally broke my heart when he said that. And like, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, know this right now. Like, don't ever. First of all, if somebody doesn't want to work with us or me or anyone on our team because of that, they can go fuck themselves. Like, that's fine. We don't need their business. So
yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to be authentic and show up as yourself and be real.
Right. And that's when it dawned on me. And I just said to him, I'm like, if you're not being you, your people won't find you. I think that's so important because it's like, if you're not being yourself and you're being representing as something else, you're going to be surrounded by people that
now you're fake and it's authentic. It's
right.
draining.
And I think people can pick up on that. They may not be consciously.
Well, I think sometimes it is conscious, right? When you get those just blanketed answers, you can just feel that it's stale. There's nothing there, no substance, no richness to someone. So authenticity, super important, and you learn that from being on camera. And how I love that, like your people will find you, and we know people who do business with those that they know, like, and trust, and that's everyone. That's the thing I tell people all the time is I don't really believe that there's competition in this industry because the people that are going to work with you, DJ, are not going to work with me necessarily.
Oh, totally.
Right? Like it's all collaboration at the top because we're all different.
Absolutely.
We're all snowflakes out here, and we have our own uniqueness. So that's important. So, but you jumped on social early. And now you have
I got over myself.
You got over it, and I think everyone, like after you do it for a while, you do, because I felt that for a while as well. And the same thing, I can remember being out making videos and take because a bird flies by or whatever, and it gets frustrating, and then you just let it be a part of it. Like, oh, here was that bird.
Right.
But then you started to do street interviews. What was the thought process behind that?
Well, even before that. The segue into video was when COVID hit. It's like, oh, I built my business on doing open houses. We're not like, I don't even remember, we weren't doing open houses. Right. And then when we could, they would do virtual. And then not even just virtual, but I remember having masks and gloves, even the gloves. It's so funny. I'm just thinking about it now, like everything I had to get, like hand sanitizer and all this stuff, and only one group in at a time. And is anybody even going to show? So it was super important to be able to present the inventory.
And video was
key for that. It's also, there's other things about video that I think are great as well, because it also helps show, we all know in the photos, right, you can Photoshop stuff, blow things up so the room, looks a bit bigger and whatnot. When you have, in video, when you have a human being standing in the room relative to the size of other things, you can gauge that a lot better. I just think it's a better way to, showcase the home. So that's why we did that. Then to answer your question about doing interviews, it's like after a while, content gets really boring. If it's just like,
here's another house.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like starting off your video like, "Hi, this is DJ." No kidding. I'm on your page, or I'm on your profile. I know who you are. It was getting old, so I wanted to just a couple of things. I wanted to show people, because I would have out of state or out of the area people ask me what's so great about St. Pete, and I tell them, and they're like, "Oh, you're just trying to sell it." Well, yes, is what I do, but also I'm giving you an honest answer. So I just kind of had the thought of like, all right, don't take it from me. Let's go ask some random stranger. And also like Billy on the street, Billy Eichner, he's hysterical. I kind of got the idea from there, except I wasn't going to run up and yell and scream at people like he does like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I was just like, I literally, like, it's all unscripted. I just wait for somebody to come by and just say, "Hey, would you mind if I asked you a couple of questions about St. Pete?" It was really cool because it just reinforced in a few different ways. It reinforced how great a community that we live in. Most people were like, "Yeah, sure," and even the ones who weren't were like, "I don't really like being on camera." I'm like, "No worries, don't worry about it." And the other way that it reaffirmed to me how great this community is in the questions that I asked, there were common themes that ran throughout them. So the first two rounds, or I don't want to call them seasons, but the first two rounds of, because I'd batch them, so like 30 at a time.
They were seasons. Come on, DJ.
Yeah,
you got seasons. Seasons.
Stay tuned for season 4.
Yeah.
But the first two that I did, it was a standard question that I asked everybody. And it was like, "Hey, are you a St. Pete local or transplant? If you're a transplant, how long have you been here? Why'd you move here?" The next question would be, if you woke up tomorrow and found out you had to leave St. Pete, could never come back, what's the number one thing you would miss?
That's a great question. Common answer?
The common answer was the community, how easy it is to make friends, how much there is to do around the area that makes it easy to meet friends. As the years went on, people would start, mentioning restaurants. Some people, the manageability of the area, so that was more geographic, meaning that, a lot of people don't realize, especially like when friends from Chicago would be like, "Well, if I buy something from there, buy something down there, I want to be at least a half hour, 45 minutes, to the beach." I'm like, "Honey, it's St. Pete. You're like 15, 20 minutes from anything you want." So don't worry about that. And then my last question was, because I'm a firm believer in supporting local small business, because that's what I am as well, was, can you name one or two local small businesses that you love and love to support? Who are they? Why? Because I like to give those businesses a shout out as well. So that, that was the main reason for that. And it also helps to promote St. Pete. And as I mentioned, all the different cities and areas that I've lived in, I have those videos sent out as well, so people get to know, because who knows, they may still have the same
perception
that I had. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, no, it was really smart and cool, and a different spin on just a way to do marketing and get outside influence and more conversations with more people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. Like just what we're doing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You turn on a microphone and start a conversation.
Yeah.
Really cool. So now the structure of your business, you have a team in place. When did that team come into fruition?
Halfway through 2020.
Because that's a big step for a lot of agents.
It was huge, and I never joined a team. I wanted to, just make a stab at it on my own. Would things have clicked a little sooner? Maybe if I had, but is what it is. But yeah, it got to the point where I want to say it was probably around May or June of 2020. I just kept getting busier, and I was mentoring a gentleman named Roy, who was super helpful. And at this point, I had 5 or 6 active listings. I had 2 about to come up. I was working with 5 active buyers who needed to find something in the next 30 days. And within a week, I had 4 more new buyers call. And I was like, there's only one of me. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I asked Ray, he started off, I'm like, will you just be like a showing assistant for me? And like, I'll set these up. And he's like, okay. And then as it got busier, I'm like, I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. But I'm like, they're yours. I'll split this with you. But, and he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And he did a great job. He ended up not wanting to be on a team, and that's fine. He actually didn't even stay in real estate. But then it did get to the point where it continued to pick up. It was getting busier, and I knew I needed help. So
it came out of necessity.
Yeah.
Just the way, that's the model, right?
Yeah.
After you get so busy, you can't do it.
When I got my license, I thought if I sold 4 or 5 homes a year, I would be killing it, and I'd be perfectly content.
And now that's
so I never anticipated. I never thought I'd have a team. Thought I'd probably end up on.
And that's a common theme from those that are super successful in this business, is they didn't think that they would be selling more than that, right? And then I think maybe that comes from, because of that thought, you're not chasing commissions and you're just genuinely doing it to help people, and people feel that.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's right? Okay, so you're getting busy, team structure. That's a big step. What was your first move to say, okay, I need help? I know that you had the showing assistant, but like, who's the first hire?
A transaction coordinator. That is definitely
Full time dedicated to you, or was
No.
it okay? So
Service.
contracted out. Yeah. Okay. Who's like your first step when you took on payroll for yourself, for someone else? I mean.
So, well, not really a buyer's agent. I started next with buyer's agents.
Okay.
Actually, at the same time, I brought on my first buyer's agent and an assistant.
At the same time.
So yeah, so that was mid to late 2020.
And that's a tough thing, because I feel like some agents think like, I don't have time to train. Did you feel that?
Yeah. I still feel that way.
Right.
I say that all the time. I'm like, no offense. When I started a team, it was like you just said, it was out of necessity. It wasn't because I had all kinds of free time and I really enjoy training people. I don't. One thing I will say about my team, I just feel so blessed and lucky that, my first 3 agent hires had no experience. Jared had closed 2 deals. And then Jennifer hadn't closed anything. Jim hadn't closed anything. But the point I wanted to make was, just like when you asked me when I started, not knowing the area and all that, it was the same with my agents. And I really thought I'd want to bring on somebody who at least has done a few deals. But once I sat down and met with these people who are now on my team, I was just like, oh my God, you guys have like what I can't train anybody to have. You really care. You really want to do a good job, and you're a really good fucking person. It's like, after like getting to know them that way, I'm like, oh, screw that. I'm like, I can teach you everything else. I can't teach that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That culture piece matters. You can't teach culture.
Well, not just that, but it's also, I think one of the other scary parts at first when starting a team is, at least for me, was people are reaching out and they want to work with me because they've either worked with me in the past, or someone they know and care about and trust has said, oh, work with DJ, he's this, he's that. And now I'm like, oh, here, you're going to work with this person. And I'm like, are they going to communicate like I do? Are they going to, handle this or blah, blah, blah? There was that nerve-wracking part, but the fact that I found, or the right people are in the right place, that all just worked itself out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You decided to change brokerages. Where in your business, like where were you at, and what deciding factors? I mean, because that's a big change for some, right? I mean, there's some agents that will hop.
It's huge,
Right.
especially like this. The KW St. Pete office was my home, my first. You never forget your first, and I never will. But no, it was very difficult because there were a lot of people that and to this day, I still love and care about greatly. So it's kind of like, leaving home, and at least it was for me. But it got to the point for me in my business, and this is just my opinion, so no shade, no insult to anybody. I feel like the model wasn't working for me anymore. I felt like the KW model worked well for somebody who is new or newer, because my team jokes around and says that they're going to get a T-shirt made for me that says you get what you pay for. But I feel you get what you pay for. And at KW, when you're newer, what you're paying in really goes towards all that, the training and education, which is super important. I still, anytime I meet with an agent a new agent who hasn't joined a brokerage yet, I still send them over to you guys. I tell them to come to KW St. Pete because that is the best foundation. That's
you.
where I got mine. It's true. And once they, settle in and learn, then I'll take them. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think it's like that anymore.
I'll meet with you later, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. But so I enjoyed, and I think the model also fits really well if you're one of those teams that's massive. You're doing 200, 300, 400 million a year. You're almost a brokerage within yourself, but you don't want to be a brokerage. It's like, I think it works well for there. That left me in that middle section where I needed more help. I needed more support, which every time, let me put it this way, every time I took my eyes off my business to work on my business, meaning like trying to hire people and train people, and I tried virtual assistants and those didn't work out. And even though they're virtual assistants, I still had to spend time and explain things to them, which is taking time away from me being in my business to generate the income. With other, software systems and, all the, I don't want to say infrastructure, but all the systems that we use and databases and all that, every time I took time to do something on that, I'm missing out. And I just felt that was impacting my business. So I'm also a firm believer in, like, you got to know what else is out there. If I want to serve at the best and highest level, I need to expose myself to more, so I can learn more. So that was really probably the biggest part of it, was in a roundabout way, I felt like I was doing the best thing for my future clients, because you only know what you know, right?
Absolutely.
If I stay in that one place the whole time, I was like 10 seconds into my 18th, after my 18th birthday, I was like, I'm out of here.
Right. You left home to go check out another city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and your background tracks with that, of the amount of cities that you've hopped around to, so it's good. And there's nothing, I think it's cool, and you particularly in identifying those relationships, and this just goes back to the collaboration piece. Even though you're housed somewhere else, you're still part of the family.
Oh yeah, I mean, our offices are like a block apart.
Right.
I pop in all the time.
Yeah.
To say hi. I mean.
No, it's good. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, my heart's still here, and like I said, it wasn't just while in this industry. I mean, I've made great friends across multiple brokerages, especially just when you're being authentic, in business. Again, you're going to find yourself surrounded.
Well, that's something in the business that's always sometimes missed, in that we talk about all the relationships that we need to form with the community, but it's also our industry, right? Like, those relationships almost matter more.
With everybody. I've said it to my team countless times over the years. I don't want to just be the team, the agent of choice for the consumer. I'm like, I want to be the agent that when the agent on the other side of the deal sees who sent that offer, they're like, psyched. Oh, good. Love working with these guys. That, another home inspector or lender is just like, oh, sweet. These guys like respond to stuff and communicate and get stuff done, they realize we're on the same team. We're trying to get to the same goal, because we really are. You know, yeah, absolutely. That's so key.
What's the future hold for you now?
Oh God, I don't know. We're getting busier and busier, which is great. No complaints. You know, grand scheme of things, I'm pushing 60. I don't want to be doing this forever.
You're lying. Don't lie to the people.
Telling
DJ.
you the truth.
Aging like a fine wine.
Yeah, thank you. But to that point, I don't want to. I want to be able to have taken a step back, like within the next 5 years or so. So I've just really focused on building the right team with the right people. So when I want to take a little bit more time for myself, I can.
Yeah, that's honorable. Yeah. I think that's the goal for many.
And for the dogs.
Yes. So tell me about the dogs, because you're. How does the program work? Tell me about the program, because you have something going on when you sell a home.
Yep. Free dog with every home sold. That's what the program is called. It was in 2019. I was showing homes on the other side in the Tampa area, on the other side of the bay.
On the dark side.
And my husband had taken a picture of our dog at the time. We just had one at that time, and had his head slung over the back of the couch looking out the window, and he was like, he's wondering when you're coming home. And I was just like, oh, and I was thinking about it while my buyers, they were outside talking, and I just started going over in my head, like, I'm spending all this time helping people find the perfect home, like, oh, I like dogs more than people, too bad I can't sell dog houses. And I was just kind of put it together, like, if I can help people find their home, like, there's got to be a way I can help dogs find a home. So anyways, I met with Scott Daly at Pet Pal and just said, I want to bounce this off of you, but I want to do a program, Free Dog with Every Home Sold program, where anytime one of my buyers or sellers is closing on their home, I want to offer, if they're ready and willing to adopt a dog or a cat, I won't discriminate, they can go into Pet Pal. If they're approved through the adoption process application, if they're approved, we'll pay the adoption fee, which is $200. And if for some reason our client's not ready, for whatever reason, they already have too many pets, they're moving out of the area, whatever, we'll still donate that money in our client's name to Pet Pal. So either way, the shelter and the dogs and cats win. And again, that was a part about being, for me, just like being authentic. It's what's important to me. It's been phenomenal. I mean, in the first, we started that in October of 2020. And by the end of 2023, we had donated, between that and a couple other fundraisers we do, over $40,000.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
And a couple of adoptions.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Another unique way, if there's one theme through this conversation, DJ, that I've noticed, is that you've, throughout, intentionally or not, have found ways to really distinguish yourself from the rest. It's
not rocket science. We just said it. It's about being who you are. Just be yourself.
Right. Well, that's one thing that I heard when I first got into the industry, is how can you stick out in the sea of sameness? And the theme through this is just being yourself, being authentic, and showing up. Right. I feel like some people get in the industry and think they just have to be this perfect, polished version.
Well, not just that. You think about even social media, like even picking music. It's like, oh, well, what's trending? Fuck what's trending. What do you like?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you like?
That shows your personality. Yeah. And sometimes you bring back an old song that reminds you, like, it's good. Everyone is also vibing with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people who have a connection to that song, whatever, just like, oh, wow, I remember that, or oh, that was my senior year, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, that's a better way. Although I people will say you got to use music that's trending because in the algorithm, blah, 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 blah. We could get into a whole thing about the algorithm, but...
Right. Well, that's my whole thing. One of my things about social media, too, where it's like, okay, I get it, the algorithm, but it's like, it's not about followers. I don't have a crazy ton of followers. It's about engagement.
Yeah, it's the depth.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want, 50,000 followers if only 200 were interacting with me.
Right. No, yeah, I'd rather have 1,000 and have 700 interacting than.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's cool. It's cool to hear about your growth, watch your growth, know you from on a professional level through other. Anytime your name comes up, it's only great things. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Did you talk to my mother yet?
Not yet.
All right.
Yeah.
You're off the list. Just kidding.
Yes,
loves me.
yes.
She has to.
For those that are listening, or like, I want, not that they want to be DJ, but they want to reach that level of success. 7 years into the business, I mean, over 20 million so far this year. What's something, a piece of advice when you're having those coffee chats with people? What's a common theme or conversation that you're having with those individuals?
Pretty much just what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Can't underscore enough either, the education part of it. Like you've got to know, what you're talking about. It can't be about the commission. Yes, we all have to like pay a mortgage and live, but, I was fortunate enough that I was never in that position. When we first moved here, it's like, okay, I wasn't working at the time, so we budgeted where it's like we could live off my husband's salary, while I tried to get this going. But, in that sense, I mean, I still needed to make money, but you just can't approach it with that commission breath kind of attitude. I mean, I say to people now, when I'm like on listing appointments and whatnot, if they're like, I'm going to meet with other people first, well, that's fine. I mean, I get a few quotes for everything I'm going to do. Why wouldn't you? You're either going to feel that you want to work with me or not. I think, I'm not the only agent who can sell your home. There are a lot of good agents out there. There's some that aren't so great either, but I'm not the only one who could sell your house. But at the end of the day, you should ask yourself, if you have the confidence in my ability to sell your house, and so does this other person, where's your comfort level? Do you have that comfort level that, you can be like, you can reach out and ask me any question, whatever, and I'm going to be there, and you're comfortable. Like, you don't have to be ready to marry me, but we got to at least have a nice date. Like we're going to be able to have like nice conversation.
Yeah, let's sit down for a steak dinner,
Right. No, we don't even need the dinner, but you got to have that.
Right, yeah.
You got to have that modicum of comfort that you can reach out to me.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, I don't understand why you did this, or why are we doing this way, or could you explain this to me? And
Well, I think that's important and shows your success, and back to hospitality and I've noticed it in some agents, and just so worried about the sale that they're not realizing that this person is moving, packing up their life one way or another, whether they're selling a home or they're moving into a new one, and it's a huge thing happening in their life. And so to show up as a people person and not a transaction person.
A huge part of my job, and I tell clients this when I meet with them, a huge part of the job, it's not, and that's what cracks me up with all the recent changes where people are just like, oh, you get paid that to open a door. It's like, honey, it's way more than that. But another big part of the job is for me to help manage the stress and anxiety for my client. That's a huge part of it. I think it is extremely important. Like all day long, I feel like the biggest draw on me mentally and emotionally is that I spend my day problem solving for other people and helping manage their stress and anxiety. So that's why I have 2 dogs, so I can go home and like walk them and de-stress. But
Well, you mentioned stress management at the beginning of the show when you're talking about hospitality, and that was a question I wanted to ask you. How do you manage stress? Because I think in this industry, there are so many that get burnt out. A great conversation I had with Monica Crawford about it.
my queen, I love her.
She's incredible. And we talked about stress management. What's that look like for you?
It's honestly spending time at home, taking my dogs for walks, playing with them, just watching them interact. It's not for everybody. Like I'm a dog freak, a dog nut. And that just fills my cup.
Makes sense. Aligns with your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. DJ, I mean, we've been going now for almost an hour, believe it or not.
I could talk a cat off a fish wagon.
No, this is great. I mean, time flew. For those that are still here and with us, what's one word they could comment below for the real dedicated listeners?
Comment below for what?
To know that they're still here. They had to get this word from you. You're about to give the secret word. One word, and they're going to comment it.
Dog.
Dog. Comment dog if you're still here, so we know. That was simple enough. DJ,
You're asking for my safe word or something. I'm like, what's going on? Where is this podcast going?
No, if you're still with us and you made it this far and you're a dedicated listener, thank you. Comment dog below so we know. Share this with a friend. someone getting into the industry, whatever, just comment, share, do all the things, subscribe. DJ, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you for everything you do for the community and the industry, and excited to see what you do in the next year.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep,
My pleasure.
absolutely. We'll see everyone.